There we go. Making sure everything is straight. Alrighty. Hello, hello. So, welcome, welcome. My name is Jewel Martin. I am the CEO and instructor. Hey there, how are you? CEO and instructor of Jumpstart with Jewel, where we assist adolescent and adult students with their learning needs, such as math, ELA, science, social studies, and so much more. You can go to www.jumpstartwithjewel.com to receive your free consultation or to schedule a session. So, earlier this week, we were on here and we were working with adding with decimals. And so today I am back and we're going to go over subtracting with decimals. So, like I said before, sometimes decimals, they seem to be a little intimidating, but it's not hard to do. The main thing that you have to remember when you're adding or subtracting decimals is that your decimals must line up. They must be directly underneath each other, regardless of how many digits are in the number. And if you happen to have a whole number, meaning a number with no decimals at all, that number goes to the left of the decimal point. We'll go over that right now. So for instance, let's get right into the mini lesson. Let me get my pen. Let's do this. Okay. So let's see. The first one we'll do, and I had talked about this the other day, how sometimes when you see decimal problems with decimals, they'll write the problem horizontally just to see if you can determine how to do the problem. So let's say we had, for an example, a problem that said 11 and 6/10 minus 5, or 11.6 minus 5. So in this example, 5 is our whole number. It has no decimal point after it. So that's a whole number. And then we've got 11.6, or 11 and 6 tenths. So in this case, when you're doing subtraction, you do have to write the larger number on the top. So that's going to be 11. Put our decimal point right here. And then 6. And we're going to subtract. And the 5. The 5 is the whole number. The mistake that I've seen people make, they'll put the 5 over here under the ones column, and that is incorrect. Because this number has a decimal in it, that 6 is less than a whole number. It's a sixth out of 100. So it's the wrong place to put that 5. That 5 is a whole number, so it needs to go to the left of the decimal point. So your 5 is actually going to go right here. Now, to help you out, to keep you from being confused about it, you could add a decimal point here and put a 0. You don't have to, because it's still going to be 5. 5 and 5.0, or it's going to be the same thing. But to make it easier, some of my students, I'll have them put a decimal point there. Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. Hello, hello on Facebook. So yes, so let's just go ahead and subtract. So you're going to go ahead and subtract as usual. 6, of course, take away 0, which is nothing, is 6. You bring down your decimal point. And that's the thing. When you're adding and subtracting decimals, they stay in the same exact place. You just make sure they line up. And you keep them in line even in the answer. If you're subtracting, of course, we get the 1 over the 5. You can't take away 5 from 1. It's too big. It's impossible. So you do have to get help from your next door neighbor. We used to call this borrowing back in the day. We called it borrowing. Now you all call it regrouping. So you have to get help from your neighbor. You take this 1 in the hundreds column. That we regroup. We take apart that 1. That becomes a 0. And since we're taking 10 from this 1, instead of this being a 1, we add the 10 to it. It now becomes 11. So 11, take away 5, is 6. Now, I could have left it like that. I didn't have to do the regrouping because the other digit was a 1, so I could have just did 11 minus 5. But just for the sake of being consistent, when you're doing subtraction with 2 and 3 digit numbers, you would do the same thing. So I just went ahead and did it this way. So that's our answer, 6 and 6/10, or 6.6. Let's do another one. we've got 26 and 8/10 minus 3/10, or someone might say 0.3. So same thing, we're going to write this down, 26 and 8/10, so 26.8. Take away 3/10. Make sure that our decimal points line up. And we're doing subtraction. Now, you can leave it like that, which is perfectly fine. Or if for some reason this empty space right here kind of throws you off, you can just stick a 0 in there if you want to. You don't have to. You can leave it blank. It's up to you. And then you're just going to subtract as usual. 8 take away 3 is 5. Bring down your decimal point. 6 take away 0 is 6. And 2 take away 0, of course, which is nothing again, is 2. So our answer is 26.5, or 26 5/10. Okay, let's try another one. Maybe we'll do 2 more. So even if you see, let's say 20 take away, or 20 minus 3 4/10. Same thing, you're going to put your 20 here. 20 is the whole number, remember. And then 3/4. The 3 goes here. Decimal point 4. Now remember, 20 is a whole number, so your whole numbers are going to go to the left of the decimal point. In this case, I would suggest, because the 20 is on top, to put a decimal point there and to add a 0. So that way, when you're subtracting, it's easier for you. It makes more sense, because you're going to have to regroup, because you're going to have to subtract 4 from nothing, which is impossible, right? It's impossible. So in this case, the whole number 20, if you put that decimal point there and make it a 0, now it makes more sense. Now you can go ahead and complete the steps when you're subtracting. So 4 take away 0, we already said can't do that. That's not going to work. Can't take away 4 from nothing. You go to your next door neighbor. Let's look at the tens column. We've got a 3 on the bottom and a 0 on the top. Cannot take away 3 from 0. It's impossible. So we have to go to our next door neighbor, to the 2. We have to regroup, or like I said, we called it back in the day, we called it borrowing. So I'm going to get some help from my neighbor from this 2. I'm going to take that 2. I'm going to put a line through that. I'm going to borrow 1 from that 2. That 2 now is going to become a 1. And then what happens, I'm going to give that 10 to this, that 10, to that 0. So of course 10 plus 0 is 10. This becomes 10. But if you look again, your neighbor right here above this 4, it still needs some help. So then you cross a line through that 10, and that 10 now becomes a 9, because you still got to help this neighbor right here. The 1 that we borrowed from this 10 in the middle in the tens column, we give it to the 1s. This is also sometimes becomes a little challenging for some of my students when you have to regroup 2 and 3 times in one problem. So that's why I just encourage my students to take their time and work it through. Make sure their numbers are neat. Make sure you have your columns, because sometimes if your numbers are bunched together, it gets things confused. And now you can go ahead and subtract as usual. So 10 take away 4. It's going to be 6. I'm going to bring down our decimal point. Always keeping it in the same place. And then now we have 9 take away 3 is 6. And then we're left with this 1 right here. 1 take away nothing. Nothing's here. It's basically 0. And that's going to be 1. Now I could have put a 0 here. You can put a 0 here if you want, if it helps you. You don't have to. It's up to you. But yeah, so now our answer, 20 minus 3 4/10 is 16.6. Let's see. I'll do one more real quick. One more. Let's do 85.5. Take away 1.6. My kids are in the living room. They are so loud. Okay. So here we go again. And I guess we'll just put a 0 here. We don't have to put, hey, doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and subtract. So 6, you cannot take away 6 from 5. So again, you're going to have to look to your neighbor over here in the tens column. We need help. We need to borrow. They call it regrouping, but we need to borrow. So from this 5, I'm going to borrow a 10. This 5 now becomes a 4. And that 10 that I borrowed from this 5, I'm going to give it to this 5 right here. So instead of it being 5, now it becomes 15. So now we can subtract. 15 minus 6 is 9. Bring our decimal point down. 4, take away 1 is 3. And then 8, take away 0. And again, you could have left it blank. 8 take away 0 is 8. So 85 and 5/10, take away 1 and 6/10 leaves you with the answer of 83.9 or 83 and 9/10. So I hope that was helpful. I thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, you wanted to get your free consultation, you wanted to go ahead and schedule an appointment, or for more information, you can go to the website www.jumpstartwithjewel.com. Everybody have an awesome day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.